Hi, Hannah.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Good.
Can I ask you about something real quick before we start?
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to ask you about the practice sessions. Is it okay if I'm working on the same project, but I'm like adding to it, or does it have to
Totally.
be like completely different projects?
No, totally. You can definitely build on what you've submitted before.
Okay, that's great. And about the release for the A&R submissions as well, when you say release, do you mean like on DSPs, or is it like even considered as like the snippets on social media and stuff?
Just as long as it's not on DSPs yet, you can submit it for A&R feedback. So if it's not on like Spotify,
Okay.
uh,
Hola.
Hi, Dimo.
hey, Dima.
Hello.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. That's great.
Yeah,
Anna,
yeah.
these practice sessions are turning me into a DJ rather than a singer. I'm in such a Buddha bar vibe. Like they're making
Huh?
full sets. It's a problem. I
I'm
can't
all
make a 2 minute song. They're all like 5 minute long. It's scary. But yeah, wanted to just say a career shift. I
I
might be a producer, I swear.
love that.
No.
That's the goal.
Yeah, so وانا عارفاك عليك عشان انا في الميت. Okay. Can we give a shout out to Demo though for that track? Hello. Hello. It was so cool, girl.
Thank
Loved
you.
it.
Thank you.
Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Reem and the braids. Oh my god. I love it.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Demo. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Tusa.
I see Swags in the house. We're gonna give it just a few
What's
minutes.
up?
There he is. Hi.
What's up? How's everyone?
Good, good. We're gonna give it just
Awesome.
minutes while the room fills up.
Awesome, no problem.
Started.
Just making sure I'm all set up here. I tend to move my head around because I have multiple screens happening here. All right.
On there, on full screen. Okay, we ready? Feeling good? Any thumbs up? This is amazing.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Miss you guys.
All right. Well, today we have Intro to Audio Effects with the amazing Swagg. Swagg is a Grammy award-winning producer, songwriter, executive, and also a professor at NYU. He's worked with artists from Alicia Keys to Her to B.O.B., and he's multi-talented, and we are so lucky to have him today. So thank you for your time. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic to you, and let's get started.
Hi, how's everyone? Awesome. I've heard you've had some awesome online and in-person experience so far. So I'm excited to be here and hopefully get you started in working with sound and sound effects. So I from the information I gathered, everyone has Logic, right? Cool. No, it's okay. Mostly everyone has Logic. And do you have at least 3 audio or MIDI tracks we can work with up and imported? Yes, no, kind of. Cool. Okay. So am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, you can share your screen.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So today what I've done, I've prepared a session that I'm working on, and I've stripped it down and kind of want to walk through the process of adding effects and lightly mixing this track that I'm working on. So I'm going to share my screen and I kind of talk about briefly some of the elements in the production. Even though today we're not going to dive deep into production, we're going to focus on tuning vocals, EQ, compression, panning, volume. We also talk a little bit about different ways you can tune. We'll start with the very basics of the pitch correction and Logic, and we'll go through flex time as well. I prepared a session where I have doubled and stacked vocals so that we can talk about panning and different approaches and how to add depth in your vocal production of the track. We'll talk about adding delays and verbs as well. Let me open up. And I'll go, as we talk about these terms, I kind of give textbook definitions of what they are so that you have a working definition. So when I refer to, EQ or compressor, we'll talk through the different functions of EQ using different language, like ratio, threshold, knee, etc. Okay. So I'm just going to give a quick, I'm just giving an overview so you can kind of get your mind ready. Because once we start going, we're going to be going. Feel free at any point to, if you have a question, please ask. If I'm going too fast, just say, hey, I missed that. Please slow down a little bit. Sometimes I get excited and keep going because I've been doing it for so many years. So no question is a crazy question. No question is a stupid question. Ask. If you feel like it's an annoying question, that's great. Ask it. And hopefully I can give you an answer for clarification. Sounds good? Cool. So let's get right into this. And I'll open up here. Like I said earlier, if I look up, I have notes to kind of help me stay on track. I have screens for different things. So I'm not losing my mind, I promise. Not yet, anyway. Maybe later in life. Let me make sure you can hear what I have going on here. So today I won't focus on, I mean, once you understand the terminology and the function of EQ compression, you can apply those concepts to any part of your production, whether it's vocal production or the tracking part. Today I will not focus on drums as much, but we will cover a key instrument in this particular track. If you can see, as you see on my screen, I've tried to label things. Let's see, my output is still figuring its life out. Close window here. Cool. So in this particular track, I have pads, guitars. This is also a pad. I'll move it here for visual. Several bass tracks. And we'll kind of go through each of these as we get to them. But first, the most important thing that I want to talk about, does everyone know what like signal flow is? And have you talked about that already? Signal flow? Okay. So signal flow, this is a great definition. You can write this down if you're taking notes. I'll give you a chance to get your phones or your pads out. Okay, so let's talk about signal flow. Signal flow is the path a signal takes on its way from a source to a destination, okay? An example of this is once you have your vocal recorded onto a track, or you created a track using a virtual instrument. In this case, this pad is a virtual instrument. So it's a virtual instrument that I've used here. Or loop. I didn't use a loop in this track. When you play it back, the audio or MIDI is your source, and where it's going, the destination is your speakers or your headphones. Okay, so basically, signal flow is, if in this case I've recorded this vocal track into my session, and the next destination, the output, the input, and the output. So those are two terminologies you want to familiarize yourself with. A great example of this is when I went to setting and I went to audio, my output is coming into my headphones. I changed it, my output, so that you can hear it as well through your Zoom devices. Okay, so the input is the source that's going in, the output is that source coming out. So that is a hyphenated definition of signal flow. Cool. Okay, so this is the signal here. This is on my track. And on each track, you have a channel strip. And this is where things get really fun today for us, because we're going to focus on the channel strip right here, okay? In Logic, if you toggle over to the top left, the inspector, if you click on that, you can activate your channel strip here, right? And I know if you're new to the program, sometimes when you open up Logic, sorry. Okay. When you open up Logic for the first time, sometimes you have this window open, your inspector open. For me, this is just for my workflow, this is a distraction. So if you're like me and it's like too much going on, I simply click that away. And now visually, I only have my channel strip on the side. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, so again, each track has its own channel strip. Now, cool keyed command if you want to open up the mixer board to have a visual of everything, kind of vertical and horizontal. You could do Command 2. And you can kind of see your mixer board straight across. Command 2. but you don't have to focus on that today. I just kind of wanted to show you that, again, if this is better for your workflow, if you have multiple screens or monitors, you can do Command 2 and move this window to another screen. To me, it kind of gets in the way if I'm not working on multiple strings, but this is just a little tip for your personal workflow that you can experiment with, okay? Now, the cool thing about the channel strip is, and plugins and effect chains are the order in which you place your plugins, and plugins are pitch correctors, EQs, compressors, delays, different effect channels you can add. Those are plugins, okay? So the order in which you add these plugins affects your signal. So for example, when I'm doing vocals, I like to add pitch correction first, and then some people do compressor, some people do EQ. That's usually a preference or taste of the mixer. For me, when I'm mixing vocals, I like to do pitch correction, then EQ, because I want the EQ to hit the pitch corrector, then compression, because I want the compressor to hit the EQ, and then pitch corrector. Does that make sense? Oh, have a question? Nope, good. Okay, cool. Awesome. So, great. So let's kind of go through as we go through each plugin. I'll give you a definite yes. Yasmin.
Yes, hello. Can you please repeat why do you do the pitch correction first before the EQ?
Yes. So I want the channel to hit the pitch correction first, right? Versus if I do it this way, the signal is going to compress, EQ, then hit the pitch correction. But if I use a pitch correction first, then the signal hits the pitch corrector. Then, in my case, because I like to EQs, then I compress it all. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Demo? Forgive me
Yeah.
if I mispronounce any names.
Demo, yeah, demo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why there's two channels, like two mixers? What's for?
Are there two mixers you're asking?
Yeah.
No, it's only one mixer. This is just a different window. So it's the same information. So this is the vocal track that I'm working on. This is just a different window or visual to look at it. So it's only one mixer.
Yeah, I mean the channel you're adding the audio effects, there is another one on the right.
Oh, you mean right here?
Yes, exactly.
This is my master output. This is my stereo output. So everything comes through this. So if I were to open up the mixer board, so all of these channels come out of this stereo output, this singular output. So this is my master. So if I turn this down, everything goes down. Whatever I add to this is added to every track. Okay,
sorry, I have another question. So you said the pitching, then EQ, then compressor. If I change this would sound different, the outcome?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Martina?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just have a question regarding the EQ and compressor. So is it technically incorrect to do the opposite, that we put the compressor then the EQ, or is it preferable to do the EQ than the compressor?
No, it's not technically incorrect. Some mixers compress and then EQ the compressor, and some people EQ then compress the EQ. it's really preference, like what feels good to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So technically, no, it's not wrong. I've seen mixers flip it, and sometimes they'll flip it depending on also the track. If it's a kick drum or bass drum, they may change the channel flow of that. That makes sense. So first thing, let's hear our vocal. So I'm going to solo it, and I'm going to loop this vocal here, and I'm just going to drag my cursor over the bars that I want to be looped, and I press solo here. And so let me know if you're able to hear this.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way? I holding every moment like we're gonna break.
So cool. That is my signal. That is my raw vocal. Okay. So the first thing I would do on my channel strip is I will add pitch. So if you click under input on your channel, there's a blank shelf here, or insert. Simply click on that. And in Logic is categorized by each plugin. So this would be in pitch. Okay. So you want to go to Logic, pitch correction. Everyone's good?
I have a question.
Yes.
So here, after I hit the pitch correction, it's telling me stereo and dual mono.
Yep.
What is the difference? Because here it opened like in your Logic, it just opened this. So
Yeah.
it's giving me two options.
So you want to most vocals, singular vocals are mono. So rule of thumb is if it's a raw vocal and there isn't any effects printed to it, you want it to be mono. And you can hear in the input, you can also toggle it between stereo and mono. A single circular.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Gina.
Hi.
Hi.
So pitch correction in my Logic looks so much different than in your Logic. Is that normal?
Yes. So Logic got fancy and recently did an update. So you may have the version right before this one. The function should relatively be the same in any pitch corrector. For example, I usually, if my pitch corrector is working now, let's see. I usually don't use the Logic one, but the language is the same. I use one by Atari's Auto-Tune Pro. So this is a third-party plugin. This isn't the stock plugin that Logic provides, but the language, the function is the same. So as long as you're able to understand the language of it, you'll be able to apply it to any pitch corrector.
And is this one better? Because the other pitch corrector I used on my vocal, and then it turned it very robotic. Like it was great before.
This one is, this one is a little bit more smoother. Auto-Tune Pro is a little bit more smoother, more natural. But again, the function in theory is the same. So as long as you're able to understand the language of what's happening and how the signal is hitting the plugin, you'll be able to apply that to any pitch corrector. Wave has one. Auto-Tune has a few that you can kind of play with. but the language will go over the language of it so you understand it, and you can apply it to any pitch corrector.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Remanikima, did I say that right?
Remanikini, but it's okay. I just I have a question. You maybe you're going to talk about it in a second, but I noticed that when we sing in Arabic scales, I'm not classically trained, so I'm not sure of the big differences, but the auto tune in Logic thinks you're singing like false note and changes it to something completely off. And so how do we know the scale? And I guess in exceptional cases like these, like how can we translate that into the system?
Yeah. So with the Logic one, you can bypass notes or add notes. So most of the time I won't sing. In those cases, I wouldn't sing with it on, or I'll sing with it on before I record and test it and see what notes I'm hitting that is pulling on and bypass those notes. Now, if you get into more advanced auto tunes like Auto Tune Pro, they have a little bit, the scales, they have different scales that you can actually select. And they have an Arabic scale here.
There is something called user scale. Is that where I put the scale that I am like working in?
You're talking about the Logic one?
Yeah, there is, because I was also working on a song. It's in Arabic mode in Hijaz. So I was trying and I put the user scale and I picked the notes that I want the song to be in. Like I did the scale for it.
So you'll set the key in this case is E flat major.
Yeah, that user scale, the first one.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. User scale, or you can set the key and then bypass it, and it'll change, like it'll change to user scale as well.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, thank you.
So if you can also show us the bypassing process in a second, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And this song there isn't anything really funky going on, but let's say,
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
You see how I'm changing the scale?
'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can it live this way?
So I completely ruined her vocal performance by bypassing those that she's actually singing.
What is that jumping ball? Like
that's the note she's hitting. The note she's hitting.
Yeah.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So you see the vibrato is bypassing that F sharp that her vibrato is hitting.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
So response is how much tune is actually hitting the vocal. In this case, she's a pretty good vocalist, so she's not really that far out. So you slightly hear when I turn the response up, it's a little bit more robotic, but it's not.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Not crazy, because she's
Tell me how to
relatively
keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
But if I wanted to feel a little bit more natural, and you could do natural pitch, range, normal, or you can use the natural pitch detection. But most of the time, only thing you really need to do, I'll show you the other tune that I use just for an example, but I think most of you have some iteration of this one. So we'll start here and I'll show you the difference between the tunes, if that helps as well. Yes, Nada and Sharit, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, so a bit of troubleshooting. So we can't find the pitch correction. Is this a plugin that we have to download?
It should come with your Logic. If you go to Logic or Pitch, so go under input over here.
Mhm.
And then go to insert. And then go to pitch.
Thank you.
No problem. Cool. And I'm gonna give everyone like a few minutes to kind of play with it on your own too. We'll take 15 minutes for you to find it and kind of mess with it on your own songs or your own vocals that you have pulled up. And if you have any questions, you know, afterwards, you can ask me as well. So here we go.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So I've set my key. Again, it's E flat, D sharp, E flat major.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
So, milliseconds is how the response time is. If I want to sound like T-Pain or Travis Scott, I go 0 milliseconds.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the...
For me, I usually don't go that hard. I've been fortunate to work with really incredible vocalists. So I really do it just for the aesthetic and not necessarily to correct the pitch. However, we have fun sometimes, and you know, if it's a double or if it's for an effect, like really go crazy and go 0 milliseconds. I usually, depending on the vibe of the track, I'll go anywhere between 25 and 30 milliseconds.
Can I find my way in the dark?
In this case, it's pulling too much. So I'll turn it up a little bit.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way? I holding every moment like we're gonna break.
And tolerance is in between the pitch where it hits. So if you look over here, sense is like the intervals between the notes, right? So the higher that is, the slower the response hit, if that makes sense. Have a question? Yep.
Hey, I know that when you start a project, you can set the key that you want to sing in, but if you made a mistake and did not set the key, how do you figure it out? Is there a...
Yeah, so if I'm understanding your question, you're trying to say will the tune print?
So if I just sing something and I don't know what key I'm in, is there a way Logic could tell me what key I'm in?
You know what? I don't think Logic had, let me check the update. I don't think it have that. It has a tempo detector now, but not a pitch detector. There are third-party plugins that I think are inexpensive or relatively cheap, where you can, it's called Ask Key or something like that, I believe. But Logic doesn't have one.
Cool. All right.
No.
Thank you.
No problem.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
So this is the Logic one. Again, it's a good pitch corrector to get familiar with the language and to play around with it. Again, all of these tools will take time to find your work rhythm and your workflow with them. So you will have to do a lot of outside practice. But once you understand the language and kind of the function of it, they're really fun to experiment with and kind of develop your own style using them. Do you have another question?
Yeah, I can't really understand the tolerance. Like, what does it do to the track?
So if you look here, is how much tune or a pitch, or like if you're under pitch, right? That's when it hits it in the sense, if that makes sense. So like if I go up, if you look over here, if we do 0 tolerance.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
So that's the signal.
Help me find the way to your heart.
So the higher the tolerance, the less the response hit the pitch,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
So it's smoother. The higher the tolerance, the smoother it sounds when you start applying the response. And this is the language that the Logic tune use. Now, if I were to open, it's the flex tune in AutoTune Pro. So tolerance is the flex tune. So if I were to switch here and go B flat major, right? And now I'm using a different AutoTune here. I'm using AutoTune Pro. And this is just for educational purposes. And you can hear the difference. With the Pro, you have more functions like the humanizer, natural vibrato, which in most cases, I usually don't touch the natural vibrato because it can get pretty funky. But I always turn the humanizer up, flex, tune, tolerance to around 7. And then the retune speed, if I were to open the both. So the retune speed is the response in Logic, not to confuse you. Okay. Flex tune is tolerance. And those are pretty much, detune is the same as it is here. It's the hertz is the key. 440 and a lot of Western music, 440 tuning is the standard, right? So that's you really shouldn't have to mess with that. So here, this is the difference between the two tunes.
Can I find my way in?
Ooh, hold on. I should put it in major.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
So this one is a little bit more
Find my way
smoother.
to your heart. 'Cause
bypass that.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Matter of fact, I'm going to do the same settings. This will be fun. Let's do the same settings. We'll do 42. Do 7 here. Oops.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Not as smooth.
Tell me how to keep us alive.
This is the Pro.
Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever.
Logic.
Can I live this way?
So the Pro is a little bit more stable, but that's okay. That just means you have to work a little bit more to finesse it. This was the first tuner I had, and the first tuner, an iteration of this tuner, and used it for years. So you can get the job done with it. You may have a little bit harder to just familiarize yourself with the functions. Like, what's the sweet spot with the tolerance? What's the sweet spot with the response, depending on the vocal performance? Leo, did I say that correctly?
Hi, it's Lael.
Lael.
It's a tricky name.
It's good. All good.
I've got a little vocal that I'm playing with here, and my pitch correction looks like a more outdated version of yours. And when I play with the response, it doesn't really affect the vocal.
Okay.
So it's not making any change.
Let me see here. Let me see if I can pull up the older. I can't revert, but let me see if I can find a picture of the older auto-tune. Yeah, they just did this update like not too long ago. Okay, I see. Hold on, let me send it to myself here. And I think this is the one that you're working with. I'll throw it in the chat. Put the picture in the chat here. Put in the chat. Is that the one that some of you have? Okay, cool. So, okay, very, very similar in concept. So the response is, you said your response isn't working?
Yeah, it's not making any changes.
Try to remove the plugin and put it back on. All right, when you do that, make sure you set your root and scale, whether it's major or minor.
I'm a bit lost, to be honest.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit, okay? I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page. So you have your signal, right? Your vocal track.
Yeah.
Okay, and do you see your channel strip to the left?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So under input, I'll back up. Under input, should see an insert slot here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to click that. And you want to find where it says pitch.
Okay.
Then hit pitch correction.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Now in yours, you want where it says root, that's the key. So you want to, whatever key your song is in. And set the quality, which is scale. So if that key is major or minor.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And now you can do the response fast or slow. And now you should hear your signal been affected by that.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do that and
yeah, I'm gonna take a few minutes where you can kind of poke around on your own. Everyone kind of have a general idea of where to locate it, how to apply it at this juncture. Cool. So let's take about, let me see, got a message here. Okay, great. let's take about 10 minutes, and I want you to make sure you know how to locate the pitch corrector, set your key, and kind of play with the response and tolerance and see what you come up with, okay? I set a little timer here. Is 10 minutes enough for you to play with it? 15 minutes? We could do 15. I think we got enough time to do 15. And if you have any questions while you're playing around with it, just let me know.
I have a question, please.
Yes, yep.
What's a chromatic scale?
Basically, it hits all the notes in between. So a lot of times it hits all the notes in the scale. So instead of so right now it's in chromatic. So if I were to show you, like, all the notes are activated. So it's not flattening or sharpening any notes to make it major or minor. It's just in the key of, if I just put it in E chromatic, then it'll hit.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So that it's not bypassing any of that.
Help me find the way to your heart.
Sometimes people, they're not sure the quality, they'll put it in chromatic, and the pitch will kind of hit all the notes. I mean, that can get chaotic sometimes, but sometimes
you don't recommend it?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay, so if I have a vocal line that's in a certain scale and I have some notes that's not from the scale, so when I try to tune it, it blew up in my face. So I use the
right. So you can bypass them or add them back in just by clicking on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would always personally, again, like, you can experiment with it and find your best workflow. For me, I like setting the scale first. And then if I may sing something outside of the scale, I either add that note or bypass it as needed.
Another question.
Mm-hmm.
Can I separate the part where it's from a different scale, like say Arabic notes, and I tune it by on their own? So I tune
yes,
it,
you can. That's a little bit more advanced. You can get into automation where you can automate notes in different sections of the track. Or if sometimes you're lazy like me and I don't feel like automating, I just create, let's say, you can duplicate the track, right? And that's Command D. And I think most of you may have the standard key command. So you press T for your toolbox. You get your marquee tool, and let's say if that section of your song is here, you hit enter. I mean, actually, no, that's an easy way to do this. Let's use the scissors. That's better. And you cut. Then you select your toolbox again. You drag that section of your vocal down, and you can change the pitch tuning there. That's a quick workaround if you're not familiar with automation yet.
Thank you.
No problem. Yes, Sandra.
I'm kind of confused. I just wanted to ask, what does bypassing mean? Like, what's the definition? Like bypass.
I mean, like you're unarming the plugin or the track. So this is bypassing me. I'm turning it off.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Martina.
I have a question that is not related to auto-tune, but it's related to audio. So should I ask it now or later?
And it depends. That's the question. That might be something I'm getting to, and I'll let you know.
Okay, sometimes when I record audio, sometimes I hear a burning sound, as if it's cracking fire.
So that may be a problem with your signal. Are you using an interface?
Yes.
So it could either be something that's happening from the signal of the mic to the cable to the interface into the computer, or it depends on the mic that you're using. It could be something going on with the diaphragm of the mic as well. That's unfortunately I can't really give you a a quick answer to that because it could be multiple things happening with
But
that.
is it could it be fixed, or it's
It can be fixed. It could be a bad cable, like XLR cable. It could be a bad XLR cable. It could be a bad port in your interface. Or it could be an issue with the mic. You would have to kind of try different things and see if you can find it. Like first try a different mic. And if you're still hearing the crackle, change the XLR cable. Then if you're still hearing the crackle, maybe it's your interface.
So this sound cannot come from MIDI notes, right?
No, not if it's an audio signal.
Oh my God, so should I re-record it again? Tell me no. No.
I mean,
we can't EQ it and hide it?
I mean, you can try. I mean, there are a lot of plugins that you can kind of, I mean, it could get expensive to buy the really good ones. You can try to EQ it out. But in my experience, the best way is to re-record it if you can. If you have no other options, Waves have some plugins. You could try to find the crackle by analyzing it with the EQ and try it like very finitely micro dig it out. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, by the time you do all that, you probably could have re-recorded it. To be honest.
The thing is, it was those crazy mood pedals. So I feel like the setup I made, I can't remember it. So it's yeah.
It's a vocal. It's a vocal. It's a
No,
vocal
it's
track.
a guitar.
Guitar. Well, guitar you might can get away with, and it could be the pedal. If you use pedal board, sometimes like using analog gear, it has that those kind of overtones of hums and crackles. Like the signal is a bit noisy. It could be a grounding issue too. Like I said, it's so many so many variables you can kind of explore with that. But if it's a guitar, you might be able to like get away with it.
So can you recommend the Waves plugin you talked about to fix this issue? Or
I can, but I feel like I would have to hear the actual issue because I don't want to send you down. I don't want you to, without giving an X-ray of what it is, and I'm treating something that.
Sorry to butt in. I have a question. Can it probably be her buffer size? But I don't know how to find it on Logic. I'm trying to look through the audio.
Yeah. So the buffer size is here. So if you go to Logic Pro settings, audio, and then input output buffer size. But if it's recording in, that it wouldn't be a buffer issue. Like buffer issue may cause latency.
But sometimes for me, buffer issues cause clicking and cracking. Like if it's very low, if it's very high, it's like latency. But sometimes.
Is it printing on the track or is it only clicking and playback? Like if you bounce it out, is the click still there?
Martina, the audio itself is, when you zoom in, is it clicking? Is there like the audio itself, the audio wave has a problem
yeah.
No, it's
the recording.
No, it works fine, but when I export it, I still hear in the intro
Yeah, that's an input issue. That's an input issue.
Yeah.
That's an input issue. I mean, waves, I mean, let's see. Not to get off track. We weren't covering this today. Isotope has something too. Let's find Isotope. I have too many plugins for my own good. So right here,
You
like
get them as a gift?
no, unfortunately. So Isotope has a D clip and D clip, click and clip. IZOTOPE, and the plugins are RX8 DE-CLICK, RX8 DE-clip. So yeah, so explore. I think you can buy these standalone too. You don't have to buy them in bundles.
So it's the clip one with the P?
Yeah, you could try both. Yeah, you could try both.
Okay, thank you.
There's also a Crackle, de-esser. I mean, they have a few denoise.
It's interesting that you didn't recommend the D-cracker. Crackle.
Oh yeah. Well, because I would have to hear it to really, but explore any of these.
Thank you.
No problem. I'm gonna mispronounce your name again, Remini.
I know, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Sorry.
No worries. I have a question. You may have mentioned those buttons, but the use global tuning and the couple button, what do they do?
Global tuning. So yeah, let's
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
And Logic really doesn't do anything, but it's like standard tuning.
Okay.
Can I find my way in the
like if you were messing with the detuner.
Can I find my way in the dark?
See?
Tell me how to keep us alive.
But
Help me find the way to your
you wouldn't even have to really deal with any of this, to be honest with you.
Okay. And you don't have, I don't see a couple on your end, but on my old version there's like a couple button. I don't know.
Let me see. I don't remember that. Let me see.
With, like next to LR and then it says couple.
I do not see it in this picture.
No, I don't think you have it in the new version. So maybe I just need to update and then that I wouldn't have to.
Yeah, it's probably not significant why they got rid of it. Gina, then yeah.
Okay, so I have a problem. I can't find the tolerance. I only can find the response.
Really? In the new
Yeah,
version?
like in the old version.
Oh, in the old version? Yeah, so there is no
Yeah.
tolerance in the old version. So there's
Okay.
only response.
So do I just use the response for now?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep. NG? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Please don't
you're
kill
right.
me, y'all.
Fine. No, it's okay. You said it totally fine. My question is similar to Martina. So I have a guitar and I plugged it in, but it has like a buzz sound on the low end, and I have tried to EQ it, but it doesn't work. No
Still
matter
there.
how
Got you.
low end I've tuned down a little bit, it's still there. And
Still there. Yeah.
sometimes when I turn up the gain, sometimes I have to turn up the gain because the guitar sound is a bit low. So
Right.
I have to turn up the gain, and it's bigger with the gain. So I don't know what
Yeah,
the right
that might be it might be a signal flow thing. It could be a grounding issue.
Yeah.
It could be the interface. It could sometimes, if you're dealing with guitars, it could be the guitar itself that needs,
Yeah, I guess
a
it's the
little.
guitar itself because I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt,
you're
but
good.
I guess it's the guitar itself because
Mhm.
I have another audio interface other than Focusrite, and I still have the same issue. So
So
I
that
guess
might be the
it's
guitar.
the guitar. So
Yeah.
I can't afford to change the guitar actually. So
Right.
I'm trying to
So
find a solution.
I mean, I think your approach was correct. The first thing is to try to EQ it out. You know, find the hum, analyze it, or use a sweep, which we'll talk about sweeping. And EQ. Logic has a pretty cool analyzer where if you play an audio input, you can kind of see the transients, the frequencies, and you can try to find it and carve it out. The other thing would be, you know, maybe to try to find a plugin that will kind of address it the best way it can. But yeah.
Is there a certain plugin in mind where it can do that?
Yeah. I don't know if you just saw one I pulled up by Isotope.
The declip and the declick, right?
Yeah, and they have a hummer
Will it
too,
work
a
with the
de-hummer.
buzzing? Okay.
Yeah, they have a de-hum, which may work. A noise, which might deal with the buzzing.
Okay, I will search. There are a guitar denoise. I'm seeing. Is that it?
Yep, denoise. Yep. They have a few.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Tasnim. Did I say that correct?
Okay. So if we wanna fix the pitch of a very specific section, do we need to make that its own track, fix it, and just leave the
No.
rest? So if you don't
Great. So that leads, if everybody's kind of cool generally with the plugin, we can move into flex tune or flex time. And this is a little bit more kind of right in the pitch where you want it. Everyone is cool so far? Cool. So I'm going to bypass, meaning turn off the plugin for now. And if you double click your audio track, this window should appear. Oops. And what you want to do is click on the audio, the wave here. Now, I'll move this out the way. Now, if you scroll up to the top, there's several ways to get to this particular function. Let me start. This is one way, double click the audio track. You can close it. Another way is if you scroll up to the top, you should see like a infinity looking emblem. This is your flex tool. And you can turn it on here as well. And you can turn on flex pitch. You want to make sure your track is highlit, okay? Did I lose anybody with that? Okay, let's start over again. All right, cool. So there are two ways to access flex pitch. One way is you want to select your audio track, make sure that track is selected. And if you look up, scroll up, there is an infinity icon here, or you can do Command F to turn on your flex tool. And a window like this will open up. And on this insert, you want to select flex pitch.
So I have a question regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I selected the flex pitch, it came like okay, never mind. Because okay, so what's the difference between flex pitch and flex like the other time? Yeah.
So flex time has to do with the rhythm.
Okay.
Right. So you can quantize audio, you can set up within the transients, you can set markers to kind of move the timing around. Flex pitch only deals with the tone, the pitch.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So if you double click your audio signal here, you want to make sure at the top it's on track. And then you press the space bar. When you hit track and hit flex pitch, you want to hit untap that and tap it again. And then your window should look like this. Is everyone here? Cool. Now, to answer your question about specific areas. So there's a sine tone, and you can see the middle function is the pitch. You have pitch drift. That's kind of the distance between one note to the next. You have the actual pitch. So without tune, she's flat, 12 semitones, right? This is pitch drift as well. This kind of changes the tone. Format shift changes the tone of the vocal, which you probably wouldn't unless you were experimenting with just like wanting to change the tone. Vibrato, again, this could get funky. And then the gain, how loud, if you look at the transients, how loud this particular transient gets. So if I were to turn that up, you see how that one section get louder. All right, so to answer your question, is that like if you just wanted to tune a particular part, right? So this is where a flex tune is really cool if you have the time and patience. Say you like everything about it.
Can I find my way in the dark?
And you wanted this to be a little bit more tuned. So the cool thing about flex pitch is if you tap it, you can hear the pitch.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Now, if I wanted to get extra saucy with it, you can drag it. And let's say I'm going to put it completely wrong. She's singing a G. I'm going to move her note to an A.
Can I find my way in the dark?
I wouldn't want to do that, but that's how cool this is. You can kind of rewrite the melody if you wanted to. But usually what I'll do is like if it's positive 30, I'll flatten it to 0. So if you're, and it's really cool because you can see like if it's how many it's under, how many is over the pitch. So this is only -1. Move it up. That's sharp. Move it to 0, and it hits the tonic.
Can I find my way in?
Can I find
my...
Like that's sharp, or flat actually.
Can I find my way in? Can I find my way in the dark? Can I find my way in the...
Can I find my way?
Can I find my way in the?
You can change it up.
Can I find my way? Can I find my way in the dark?
So yeah. So to answer your question, yeah. Oh, sorry, Molly.
You can answer Demo first because she was raising her hand first, and then I'll go after her.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep up.
It's okay. So flex pitch, is that Melodyne?
Kinda. It's Logic's version of it.
Okay, so is there a Melodyne on Logic?
Flex pitch.
Okay, thank you. Okay, one more question. If I have to use if I'm flexing, if I'm doing that, do I do that before the auto-tune or after?
You can do it after or just use this and not auto-tune. So
Okay.
this is I mean it's a little bit more tedious, but if you want it like more accurate and smoother, you can go in and do it this way. Usually I'll do this if like there's just like a really bad part that auto-tune isn't catching or pulling too hard. You can use both. You could absolutely use both. So you can put auto-tune on because this isn't a plugin. This isn't a plugin.
Okay.
This is directly on the signal.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, the fine pitch is basically another word for saying that you're on key. Or
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Thank you.
So -24 means I'm under the key. So 0 on key. If it's up positive numbers is sharp. Yep. The microtones in between. And then again, like vibrato, you see this line indicates the vibrato. Personally, I usually don't bother that, but you can change the size of vibrato. Let's see if I can demonstrate.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So right here, let's say if I wanted to tighten that up a little bit.
Can I find my way in the dark?
You can even tighten it more.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Or let's see.
Can I find my way in the dark?
You hear the difference? So you can tighten the vibrato, make it, you know.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So I change the direction of the vibrato.
Can I find my way in the dark?
That's pretty natural. And then I'll demonstrate what this does. Oops.
Can I find my way in the dark? Can I find my way in the dark?
So it changed the tone of the voice.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Again, that's some creative vocal stuff that can be cool if you're trying to get a little funky with your vocals, right? So the only thing with this is it's a little bit more tedious. If you have a bigger vocal, I mean, it could take you hours to go through doing it. So let's take a step back. I want to make sure everyone knows how to get to it. The quickest way that I do it is I just double click the audio, make sure track is selected, and make sure my flex time. Sometimes with Logic, you have to hit that a couple of times to press spacebar for you to actually see the tool. Yes, Yasmin.
I just wanted to ask you because I once used the flex pitch on my vocals, but it was almost impossible to adjust. Like I feel it's a very tricky tool. If we don't use it carefully, it can mess up the whole
Yep.
vocal.
Yeah.
So do you think the pitch corrector is a better tool or more safe?
It's safer. It's almost like, if I can use an analogy, plugins versus hardware, right? So if you're not sure how to use the hardware version of a compressor, because once you record through that, it's printed on, right? You can really mess up your vocal, versus plugins in the virtual space is a little bit more grace. If you kind of figuring it out, messing up can undo quicker. I mean, with this, you can also unarm turn off flex time and kind of start over. But yeah, I mean, it's good to practice and just open up a session or a vocal that you don't really care about, or like do a test vocal to experiment. And we'll take a little time here for you all to kind of open up a vocal and play around with it, mess it up, get dirty. I think the thing that I've learned with production and effects and plugins is sometimes you have to roll your sleeves up and mess it up. And that's how you can't be afraid to mess up a session. So a lot of times I'll do test sessions if I'm figuring out a new plugin, or I'll do a save as, which is really cool. So let's say, okay, I want to play with flex time in this. I go to file, I do a save as, and save this project as flex. So now whatever I did before is in a different session, same folder, but different session. And I'm free to kind of destroy this, mess it up. And, you know, I've still saved my previous work. So Jess, I would encourage you not to be afraid in general. When it comes to production and audio and recording, you got to give yourself grace to not know what you're doing a few times, to find your workflow, to find how you can apply some of the language. Because sometimes if you understand the book definition of it, you also, there's a feeling component to it, right? There's a hearing component to it. So sometimes the sound or feel that you're looking for is not defined in a textbook, right? You are familiar with the terminology, but it's like, I feel like I want to put compression first, or EQ before my EQ. Or maybe I want to put pitch, because you understand what pitch does. You understand the function, right, of a delay or verb. Sometimes, and we'll get to this, in textbook, you want to sing your verbs in delay to a bus, right, or an aux. Sometimes when I'm producing, I break that rule and I put it directly on the track, because I understand the function of it, right? So it's really just understanding what it does, and then you can have creative license to kind of like break some of those rules and create an interesting workflow for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sandra? Sandra?
Do we have to like render the vocal track before playing with flex pitch on it? It's not working. It's not working.
Not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a MIDI file. Yeah, it looks like a wave.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, cool. So let me walk through this again. So double click it. Then you click track right.
Yeah.
Then you hit this. Make sure flex time is selected there. Then sometimes you have to start the track. So press space bar, undo it, then tap it again. It's a glitch. I don't.
Wait, we're gonna try.
We're gonna try that out.
Okay. Yep, and then hit the unarm and arm the flex time again.
If it's not working, is it still a glitch? Because it won't work.
It's still not working?
Yeah, it's so weird. We like try closing Logic entirely?
You can try and reopen it and see what happens.
Okay, we'll try. Thank you.
Martina?
Can you please explain the difference between bus and the other word? Because I feel like
aux. They're interchangeable in some cases. So right here, I've set up a bus, which is my auxiliary channel. So if you go, we'll get to it. We'll get to that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna go over that. Yeah. I'm gonna go over that.
Much needed.
We're gonna get to that here shortly. Okay. I want to make sure they're able to open up flex time.
So quick question. While we wait for them, can you show us like how it sounds like before the flex pitch and everything, and then afterwards, like the difference between both? Quickly. Thank you.
Yep. So this is the vocal.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
With flex pitch.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Now, this is the raw file again.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Now with the pitch corrector.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Now I'll do pitch corrector and flex time together.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Very subtle.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, because I'm not fully trained in terms of like my ears. I don't have like fully training and all that stuff. So I wasn't really able to identify if there's a change. So maybe she's already singing on pitch. It's just very minor differences.
Very minor differences.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is a different conversation, but when I usually vocal produce, even if I intend to use vocal tune, pitch corrector, a lot of times I have the singer sing through it, but I will produce the vocal in a way where it's not correcting pitch. I'm using pitch correction literally as an effect tool. So I mean, the human voice, like, there will be flaws, which is cool. So sometimes it may get a little sharper, like you saw, maybe she's a little under, maybe a little over the note. And it kind of tightened it up a little bit. But generally speaking, for me, the way I use it is not to correct necessarily the pitch. Like, I want a great performance anyway. Now, if I'm being creative and I want it to sound like really far out,
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Which is cool too. That's your creative preference. So yeah.
Thank you.
Sandra, are you able to get it rocking yet? Sandra. You good? No?
Yeah, I think she sent something on the chat saying that they tried again and now it works.
Okay, cool, great.
Yeah.
It was a glitch in the matrix. Okay, cool. Did everyone get to kind of play with flex time a little bit? Cool. So let's now move on up a little higher. So let's talk about panning a little bit before I get into EQ. In this case, I've doubled particular parts. So panning is basically the left and right. If you're talking about stereo, panning, you can move the audio signal to the left or right of the speaker or your headphones. So in this case, sometimes when I do vocals, I'll double some parts. So this lead is my main vocal. This is my double one. This green track is my double one. This blue track is my double two. So if we were to play with panning here, I'm going to move my double one, which I've labeled ADL2. I'm going to go all the way over to the left. So if I mute everything, and this is why I record things in mono, so you only hear it. Mono, you only hear it where you're panning it. So if the track is in the center, you hear it center. If it's all the way to the left, you only hear it on the left side. So if you have on headphones, you only hear this vocal in your left.
It's alive.
Right?
Your heart, 'cause
And so the panning here is here. So if you look above the fader, this knob is your panning knob. A lot of times you will hear mixers reference it. We use the face of a clock when we're talking about it. So we'll say, you know, this is noon, center is noon. Or we'll say around, pan it around 10, you know. So 10 is like 30%, or you do 6 o'clock, which is hard. 6 o'clock on the left, right? And on this vocal, I do 6 o'clock, or you can do 5 or 7, but just kind of think of it as a face on the clock and where you're sitting the layers of the vocals when you're stacking it. And then mixing, you want to do this anyway. So if you think about, this is how I started understanding panning when I was in college. I went to hear a symphony orchestra, and the way the orchestra is kind of set up is a natural pan. So you have your violins, your cellos, your percussion, and the orchestra is most of the time spread it out in the orch. And the way the sound hits you is a natural pan. So same concept when you're mixing, right? So sometimes, because you want your main vocal to be the focal point, and modern contemporary mixing, the main vocal is always centered. So your lead vocal is always centered. Find my way in the dark. Right? And everything else is kind of mixed around that. And pop music is drums, bass, and vocal. So you usually have your kick drum in the center, your snare drum in the center, your hi-hats or percussions on one side or the other. Your bass is usually centered, and your keys are kind of spread out as well, so that you're utilizing the stereo field very well, and everything is kind of like not centered and mushed together in one place, and it get like really muddy in the mix. That's a side note. So let me backtrack here. When we're talking about vocals, panning with vocals, I have these parts. Oops.
the dark,
So just highlighting some of the vocal.
it's alive. Your heart, 'cause I live this way. I
Actually don't need that.
gonna break.
So what I've done is my doubles, I've put one all the way to the left, one all the way to the right. And I still have this vocal in the center. So if you play them together, you have this depth, this stereo depth. And when I say stereo depth, meaning you have the vocal in the center and you have these layers on the side of the stereo field.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever, can I live this way?
I should do this too. Let me copy the tune over. Which to copy a plugin over to another channel is you'll hold down Command Option, and you drag it over. No, don't release Command and Option, just drag it over. So hold down Command Option, click on the plugin you want to copy over, and drag it over to the next track. Okay.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever, can I live this way?
So right now my doubles are pretty loud. So if I'm mixing this, so we're talking about mixing this balance, right? When you talk about mixing a track, the whole concept of mixing when you're mixing a record is balancing everything out. So it's a pleasant listening experience. You don't want anything jumping out and being a distraction, but everything kind of marrying together and gelling together, right? Like if you're making your favorite dessert or a favorite dish, if you add too much of anything, it kind of throws off the dish, right? You know, I love cakes and stuff sometimes. So if it's too much sugar, I can't enjoy it. So you can kind of look at like verbs and delays and tune. It's like sugar or, you know, that you're adding to the cake. A nice little sprinkle of it, perfecto. Too much kind of throws off the vibe, right? And so in these parts are just for texture, right? So if you go back to, I don't know if you have double vocals in your track, but I'm just showing you this, how I deal with vocals. If you go back to in the beginning when I said Command 2, you open up your mix window. Oops. If I were to select and hold down Shift, highlight that track and the track over, I've grouped them for the moment, and I can bring both of those volumes down. Again, I'll do that again. These are doubles. I want them to have the same volume. So I highlight one track, hold down Shift, and click the next track. And I've grouped them instantly where I can move their volume together. So
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever, can I live this way? I holding every moment like we're gonna break.
So I just want that for texture. It's not the focal point. Her lead is the focal point of this blend. Those are just support vocals to add texture and dimension, right? So that's that. Okay. Now, so that's kind of a concept of panning. So the panning knobs are here, left and right. So I want you to take a minute to make sure you can find and identify the panning knob and the volume faders. Pretty easy enough for now, right? All right, cool. Sorry? Oh, was that for me? Oh, I see the hands. I see hands. Okay. Okay, I'll go in the order that I see everyone. I don't know who was first. Sandra or Sandra?
Okay. Yeah. Is there some sort of like keyframe system if I want to mess with the panning, or is that not for like Logic? I just copy and paste and mess with each one individually?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or like,
okay.
Yeah. Or like if you want to, let's say, let's back up here. I'm gonna hold down Option and click to go back to 0. let's say if these two I want to be hard left and right, you can again hold down, hit shift, and then they'll both move together. And this is kind of like an instant grouping. Now, if you unconnect them, it's not going to be grouped. So you have to highlight them together. Yeah.
And is there some sort of, like, you mentioned that for pop, usually the main vocals, the drums, and the bass are all centered. So is there some sort of genre, or do I just mess around, whatever?
Mess around. I mean, that's kind of a standard practice in pop music. And it depends on the production, right? So in this particular track, not to get ahead of myself, but because you asked so nicely.
Yeah.
In this particular track on the hook, I have 2 different bass parts. Excuse me. I have a synth bass. And I have an electric bass that's slapping. So in this case, to create space, I wouldn't have both of these frequencies in the center, right? Because I already have my kick drum in the center. I'm going to have my heavier bass in the center. So I'll move my slap bass to either the right or left, depending on the environment of everything else that I'm mixing in this particular track. And it kind of gets out of the way. So it's much cleaner. And even in this, which we haven't talked about EQ, we're going to get into EQ with the slap bass. I kind of took out some low mids. I can even carve out some more lows so that this bass can have all that space to itself. So if I throw the EQ up, it kind of fits like a puzzle frequency-wise, right? Like I might even, I haven't mixed this yet, but sorry. I might even carve out some of the mids here. You know, find the frequency, carve it out, and just have the thump of that bass. That's kind of the idea, which was I was about. Let me answer a few questions. I'll come back to EQ, but I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, Yasmin.
What do you think is the most common way to pan a piano?
It depends. So if it's a MIDI piano, the piano's a stereo instrument, right? Because you have your lows and highs, right? So even if it's a MIDI instrument, a virtual instrument, it's a stereo instrument. And when you play it, like if you look over here on this graph, not to scare anybody with all these hidden tracks I just unloaded on you. But if you look over here where my cursor is, you see even with this, it's a stereo instrument. So right. So in some cases, it depends on the track. You might just leave it in the center because it's already a stereo instrument. So depending on the voicing and how you plan it, it's going to spread across the stereo spectrum anyway, right? Now, if it's not the focal melodic instrument, you can always, again, in this case, because I have the bass, I'm just going to throw this up here. So because I have this slapping bass to my right and the piano voicing is darker, I might put it to the left to create space. So the way I think about it is I try to spread out the frequency information, right? So that if I have a high frequency on my left already, I try to balance it out. If it's a hi-hat on one side and a piercing string, I try to kind of move them out of the way of each other. So it really depends. Again, you have to decide the star of the show in your production. And that's when it comes down to like production choices in the mix as well, right? In this particular track, I haven't decided yet what's the star of the show. I mean, it's a lot that I'm not playing that's involved in this track. But I do know I want this pad to stay in the center because it fills up so much space.
I usually do choose the option of stereo pan.
Well, you pan it like a sweeping pan?
Yeah, so I choose the option of stereo pan for the instrument in the inspector. So I can like make it center, right, center, middle. I don't know if this is something useful for the piano.
It could be. Again, I think that's more of like a creative choice, right?
Okay.
Right, because there's creativity and there's functionality, right? It's understanding what a pan is, what it does, and then there are creative choices as well, right? So, I mean, I can give you like my techniques and how I do it and how I approach, which varies depending on the song. In some cases, it may be a piano and cello song, and you might want your piano in the center, and you might want your cello in that case to the left or right, right?
Yeah.
It could be you could take that same song and add drums, and the environment completely changed because you now have a kick drum, you now have a snare drum. You know what I mean? So it really depends on the creative, the arrangement of the track, the composition, the elements. Those are all factors you have to consider when it comes to panning and volume.
Yeah.
It's complete environment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you.
These are the tools that help carve out some of the information, right? EQ, compression, how things sit in the track, right? Compressors, how things hit them. But let me go to demo.
Hi, sorry, I have so many questions.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so I'm a little bit confused about what's stereo and what's mono. So the double vocals are stereo, right? If I'm adding audio effects, they are stereo.
No, so no. So I'm creating a stereo image out of the mono tracks, but they're mono. So mono is singular, right? When you think about mono, it's singular. Now, if I were to consolidate these mono tracks after I've panned them left and right, then it creates a stereo image.
Okay, so all the vocals are mono, so mono effects.
Correct, 100%
Okay.
correct.
What about
Now,
the instruments? What's mono? What's the stereo?
Okay, so most bass instruments are, so this is a deeper question, and I hope not to confuse you with this. Okay, so bass, generally speaking, is a mono instrument. A guitar is a mono instrument. A piano is a stereo instrument. However, if you are recording bass, if you're recording bass DI, meaning direct line in, to your interface, it's mono. Now, if I were to go to a studio and say I want to amp my bass and I want to mic my amp, then the mono signal is a stereo image because you're getting the signal of the mic from the amp and the DI. If you have multiple mics, you can create a stereo image out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but if I'm adding like audio effect on it, is it
Okay.
mono or stereo?
Mono. What is the mono? We'll say mono for now. But I'm gonna show you something else when we get to buses and auxes. So if you're adding,
Okay.
so if you're adding, I understand your question now better. So if you're adding, let's say, this bass, actually should be a mono image. Slap bass. So actually, this one is a stereo image because, and I'll tell you why, this bass is stereo, because I added a stereo flange on it going in. So I recorded it in stereo because I had a plugin, a flanger, which is a stereo thing on it. So my plugins are stereo. But if the signal is mono, then you add the plugins in mono.
Sorry, how to know if the input is mono or stereo, and the plugin should also be like the source, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Missing some. I saw a hand. I lost it. It was one other question. If you had a question, you can go ahead and unmute. I'm trying to find you.
Hey.
Yep, there you go. Okay.
So I'm so overwhelmed with how amazing production is right now because of the panning, and it made me remember Bjork had a song. I think it was called Homogenic. I don't know if that's the album, but she had it was the first time I actually experienced panning and actually focused, and it's incredible. So I have several questions. Are there any other artists that are kind of known for their panning techniques that we could listen to kind of, I wouldn't say reference, but like learn from? And also it kind of relates a bit to Sandra's question about like, are there specific techniques that maybe you would suggest beginners use other than like going 50 on one on the left and 50 on the right? And I also wanted to ask in terms of like the way you can pan songs spatially, like to make it feel like you're in a hall or to make it feel like you're whispering in someone's ear. Like if you could give us some tips on like techniques like that, because I have a specific original in mind that I think I really want to make. I wanted to make to seem like the person that's singing is right next to the person that's listening, and it's a conversation, but it's only one way. So I just wanted like, yeah, if you could give us some tips on that, that would be awesome. I'm so I asked so many questions. I'm just very like
I know. No, let me see if I could oh man, there's so many records. I'm trying to think. If you really want to hear like really cool panning techniques, older records are really cool because they dealt a lot with mono. So you could really hear I'm trying to think of an old record I could put. Oh, let me try some Al Green. And these are old soul records, but you can really hear. I'm trying to think of most modern records are pretty aggressive. I mean, there's panning going on, obviously, but you could really hear. And I still reference like old records, even with modern stuff. Like we'll be in the studio and be like, "Oh, can you throw the organ in the back like an Al Green record, or can you pan the strings like?" So there's still a lot of referencing of classic music.
Very cool.
Maybe this is a good one. It's intimate. Let me know if you can hear this. So the strings are mostly on the left.
think of younger days.
Vocal in the center.
When I lived for my life.
You have to listen.
Was everything
Sorry.
a man could want to do.
You can hear it. She's saying it's better in headphones.
Yeah, it is.
I could never see tomorrow. I was never told about the sorrow. And how can you mend a broken heart? How can you stop the rain from falling down? Tell me how can you stop?
You hear that? That
Yeah,
vocal's on this side,
yeah.
the other vocal's on this side. Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. It's so cool.
Crazy. It's insane. I mean, there's a lot of records. I'm trying to think of an aggressive one. I know one. I know one actually. I was just listening to it the other day and realized the panning. I wish we had more time.
Same.
Trying to stay on task here. This is a good one. Already, guitars on the right side.
Yesterday,
vocals on the left.
all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Suddenly,
Strings come in around.
I'm not half the man
Sounds like they're
I used to
around
be.
7 or 8 o'clock. Guitars around 3 or 4. Vocal is a little.
Oh, yesterday came suddenly. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say. I said something wrong. Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday, love was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. Why she had to go, I don't know. She wouldn't say.
So yeah. So that's a great example of
Very
exaggerated
cool.
panning.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to research this more. I love it. Very cool. Thank you so much.
No problem. And in that case, like panning played into the arrangement too. So when you think about, I know this is not a production, but I can't help myself. I'm a producer. The arrangement also played into how they pan and approach the mix. So it starts with the guitar, then the vocal, then the string. So you feel the build, the stereo build as this song kind of goes along as well, which is really interesting and a cool choice.
Very, very cool.
It almost
I
almost
have
feels.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you
Go
go ahead.
on.
I was saying
I
it
have a
almost.
question about something else, so you can keep going. I'm sorry.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Now I was just saying, make it really quick. So we got lag, I think. But as I said, it almost feels like the mixing and production choice is if it's intimate, as if someone is holding a guitar playing and then the vocal come in and the strings come in far off away. So it kind of paints the picture of the song, the emotion of the song. It helps usher the emotion and spirit of what the lyrics are conveying as well. So panning, volume, EQing, all these things are tools to help shade the emotion of the song.
Love that.
So I have another question about something that you said earlier.
the idea of taking the signal from the amp rather than just inserting the guitar or the bass in the interface. I really like that idea. I feel like it would produce a better sound. In what circumstances would you recommend someone doing that? So taking the signal from the amp instead of into the interface.
I mean, I think it's creative choices, right? I think if you have access to it, I mean, I've done crazy things, right? Like I've sampled my son's toy plastic guitar on my iPhone and imported it in to a track. And I mean, I could play it's just a track, but I could play it for you. And it's nothing technically special about it. It's just a vibe, right? So sometimes there are those creative choices where it's like, man, this feels good. We've done it with pianos before. I don't have the track on me, I don't think, but where we were in a very expensive studio here in New York, Electric Lady, and we decided to track the upright piano on our iPhone and import it into the track. Again, nothing technical. It was, we just love the sound, you know. So there is space for creativity, right? I mean, I think if the song calls for that, then do it. I think the more you experiment, the more it's almost like learning a language, right? The more vocabulary you have, the better you can express yourself in that language, right? So it's the same concept with creativity, is building the vocabulary, building the muscle so that you can make the informed creative choices, right? I mean, there's a little bit of chance sometimes. It's like, oh, let's just throw some shit against the wall and see what happens, right? But if you know, if I throw, you know, cooked noodles against the wall, it's gonna stick, then all right, today I'm gonna make that creative choice.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing. I'm gonna try that. I think it will sound really like full.
I'm gonna record everything on my iPhone.
Listen.
Don't need to buy an expensive mic. Just record everything. It's a creative choice.
Right. So it's my creative choice. Let me see if no problem. Let me see if I can find that plastic guitar thing really quickly. Then we can move on to EQ. Where is it? Afro thing. Can you hear that? No? All right. You know what? I'll drag it in here. That's fine. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I'm having a technical issue. I've completely lost volume. I'm gonna unshare and share again. I think that's what happened here.
You're gonna lose.
Oh, I know why. Sorry. That's me. That's my fault. I know what happened here. Human error. That's not the guitar. Okay. That plastic sounding guitar. guitar that's going down, 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 down. That's my son's plastic, really cheap guitar that I just plucked and tuned and recorded on my iPhone and then sampled it in. So yeah. So that was a creative choice. Instead of finding an instrument that actually made that sound, recorded in my iPhone, have fun with it. Cool. All right. Moving on along here, moving right along. Let's talk a little bit about, and we've kind of touched on it, EQ. Okay, same concept. Go to insert, EQ. I like to channel EQ in Logic if I'm using the Logic EQ. Give you a minute to pull that up. And these numbers represent hertz and kilohertz, the frequencies of the audio, right? If I were to turn on the analyzer and play her vocal, I'm going to bypass.
Can I find my way in the dark?
You can kind of see.
Tell me how to keep.
Actually, let me put a new EQ on. So I'm going to turn the analyzer on.
Alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
This is a really cool tool.
'Cause
you can kind of see where her vocal is living frequency wise.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
Okay, and this is the Q bandwidth here, right? And that's how narrow or wide frequency range you select. So these are the frequency ranges, and the width is the shape of how the range of it, right? So once you open your EQ, we're going to start with basically understanding the way EQ works. First, I'll do a high pass. And the high pass filter will filter out all the low sound, letting only the high pass frequencies pass through. Okay, so I'm going to cut out all the lows here. Okay.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your.
So that's high pass filter.
'Cause
cutting out all the low end.
Been loving you forever. Can I live this way? I holding every moment like we're gonna break, gonna break.
Cool.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
So same thing, but low pass. Low pass is you cut out all the high frequencies and only allow the low pass to come through. So I'm gonna dip out. Finding that point. Sweeping it.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live?
I mean, she doesn't really have much anything happening below 200 hertz here, but that's the concept. Blah, blah, blah. So if you want to kind of play with that on your end for a second. Cool. And then we talk about the curve bill, which is just what it says. It looks like a bell. Looks something like this, and you can do dip it, or it curves out a frequency in the shape of a bell upside down. It will boost frequencies as well. So if you want to boost something, let's say around 3 kilohertz.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your
So I'm boosting
heart.
it around
'Cause
800.
I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
So it's boosting those frequencies.
Holding every moment like we're gonna break.
And then when I was talking about sweeping earlier, where you're kind of finding those ugly. So if I want to narrow my bell, play the vocal and sweep for like nasty frequencies.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Right. So if I want to get
Help
rid of
me
that,
find the way to your heart. 'Cause
so that's what sweeping does. You kind of narrow it, like pinpoint the exact frequency, and you kind of sweep it across the frequencies while you're playing the track, and kind of hear different things in the frequencies.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
So around here, I don't know, I'm yelling, maybe because I'm playing the vocal, but around here, so between 1 and 4.5 kilohertz, you kind of hear this nasally.
Can I find my way in the dark?
That nasally thing.
Tell me how to keep us alive.
So if I want to take that out, I just simply dip it in decibels.
Can I find my way in the dark?
And I can widen the bell if I want to get rid of that like nasally frequency.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
So it's there when I move it, it's there.
'Cause
Could you hear the difference? So around 1 to 4.5 kilohertz, that's where you get that nasally sound. And then sometimes you can add it and create like a phone notch around 2 to 5 kilohertz. I'll show you. So if you want to create it for an effect,
can I find my way in the dark?
And then you can like get rid of everything else and only boost between 2 to 5.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how
like
to
a
keep
telephone
us
sound.
alive. Help me find.
So sometimes you can do that for like effects and put delays and verb on it and kind of create a cool sound. And so to get that nasal, if you want to boost the nasal sound and create like a phone notch, you boost it anywhere between like 2 to 6, 2 to 5 kilohertz.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving.
Cool. All right, so I'm gonna restart my EQ. So I'm gonna, for this vocal, I'm gonna dip.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how.
So I want to add a little air, which is like the high sibilance on a vocal. And you can usually achieve this by boosting your high end between 10 to 20 kilohertz. And it adds just a little. If you do too much, I'll exaggerate it. Okay.
Can I find my way in the dark? to keep us alive.
That's not exaggerated.
Help me find the way to your
That's
heart.
exaggerated.
'Cause I've been loving you forever, can I live this way? I holding every moment like we're gonna break, gonna break. Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
So if you want more presence, high-end presence, so that was, I just add a little air to the vocal. Now you can add a little high-end presence, which is around 5 kilohertz. So if I were to move this over a little bit. And so these dots are kind of pinpointing the frequency range that I'm working with. Right. And you can boost the dBs. So.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
Cool. Now, so if I were EQing a bass, I may add 20 to 80 hertz, depending on the bass patch. But in my vocal, Martina and then Gina.
How to know the correct frequencies, or I'm gonna ask it in a different way. How to know which frequencies should we eliminate from the track?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the vocalist and performance. These are kind of like, again, just general rule of thumb, frequency-wise, where things kind of live. Like you kind of have in that high mid 1 to 5 kilohertz, that hunky nasally sound. So you can either add or dip there. So the vocal kind of resonates within those kilohertz in that space. Air high end is between 10 and 20 kilohertz. More sibilance or tone or presence, usually here around 5 to 10 kilohertz. And then your low end, when you get past, you can't see my cursor. When you get past, so this is your mid range, your mids. So you have your highs, your high mids, your mids, your low mids, and your lows. So if you kind of think about it in that way, and where those frequencies kind of live, then it comes to like ear, like getting the best sound of the vocal that you're trying to achieve, if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. It's about more of trial and error to find
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of going back to the analogy earlier, understanding the vocabulary so that you can communicate like what you want to hear. Your mind can get you there because you know the language.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Gina?
So I have a question. It's not really a question, but can you like show us an example if my vocal is like more in the high end of things and has like a lot of high frequencies? What would you suggest I do in the EQ so that I could get like a better grip
warmer
of
tone?
it? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you already have a lot of highs going on, obviously you wouldn't boost the highs, right? I would say try to find the sweet spot, maybe for some mids. Play with the notch here, the bell here between 2 and 3K. Maybe it's adding a little bit, maybe it's taking a little bit out. I don't have a vocal that I can think of that has that type of recording, but I wouldn't boost the highs. The first thing, I wouldn't boost the highs. If it's already kind of piercing and a lot of high end, I wouldn't boost the highs. I would start kind of within the mids maybe high mids, but mids and high mids first, and then kind of adding and taking away, depending on how it sounds.
Okay, that's great.
Yep. Like in her case, she's has a pretty heavy voice. So it's very mid-rangey. Even if you look at the analyzer, I mean, without looking at the analyzer, I can hear like her vocal lives within this frequency. But I want to add a little presence. I want to add a little air to her vocal. So I'll cut out.
Can I find my way in the dark?
First of all, nothing is down here. So
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
I took too much low out her voice, and it sound really like boxy and nasally. So I want to add some of that warmth back. So I'll move.
Can I find my way in the
versus,
dark? Tell me how
to me, that
keep
doesn't
us
sound
alive.
sounds really thin.
Help me find the way to your heart.
That has a little bit more.
'Cause
Now let me bypass. Now I would usually take a little bit more time on EQing a vocal, but let's see what I've accomplished. I'll bypass it.
Can I find my way in the dark?
That's with the plug-in unarmed.
Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way? Holding every moment like we're gonna break.
It feels a little boxy to me, so I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna create a bell. I'm gonna add this back.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
I'm doing a swoop here now.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way? Holding every moment like we're gonna break.
I don't have exactly how I want it, but we'll listen to.
Can I find my
That's
way
without
in
the EQ.
dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the.
This is with EQ.
Can I find my
There's a
way
little bit
in
more
the
presence.
dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving.
You have another question, Gina?
No, I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my
Oh,
hand.
you're good.
Thank you. That makes a
Can I
lot of
find
sense.
my way?
No problem. So that's kind of the idea of EQ and approaching it. So now the next thing, now we have our pitch, we have our, let me move this. We have our pitch, we have our EQ. Let's get into compression. Okay, so let's go to dynamics and logic. I'm gonna go to compressor. And these different tabs are different types of compressors that are in Logic that you can use. Let's use the vintage one for this, the vintage FET. And let's quickly kind of go through the language or give definitions to each of these knobs, okay? Everyone has this compressor up. All right. Let's understand the language. Threshold is how loud the signal has to be before the compressor is applied. And this is in decibels. So how loud the signal, the vocal track, has to be before it hits the compressor.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Right now it's at negative 23 dB.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So you move that.
Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way.
And you can see the input gain. The input gain is your vocal track. And you see the dBs here, right? So
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how.
So if I want, let's set this to.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Again, that's threshold is how loud the signal. My signal is the vocal track. Has to be before the compressor is applied or before it hits the compressor. So you usually set your threshold, and you can adjust these as you're compressing, because as you adjust them, the environment change, right? So let's start at 15.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So the compressor is going to hit around here where my cursor is. That's when the compressor is going to start hitting.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Oops, sorry, let me move this. Let's do 24. So you can double click also and put in negative 24 dB.
Can I find my way in the dark?
So the pressure is going to start hitting here.
Tell me how to keep us alive.
Okay. Everyone has that definition. Again, the threshold is how loud the signal has to be before it hits the compression or before the compression is applied. Ratio. Here's your ratio. It's how much compression is applied, right? For example, if the compression ratio is set to 6:1, the input signal will have to cross the threshold by 6 decibels before the output level increases by 1 dB.
Can you please repeat that?
Yeah. So the ratio is how much compression is applied. So the threshold is how loud the signal is before it hit the compressor. The ratio is how much compression is applied. So you set the compression, if you do 6:1, the input signal, which is the vocal, will have to cross 6 decibels before the output level increases by 1 dB. So I'll play it for you.
Can I find my way in the dark?
And you can see
Tell
here.
me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
So the shorter the lower the ratio is. So if I set it to 1 decibel, when it hits 1 decibel, that's when if the ratio is 1:1, then once the signal hit 1 decibel, it will increase by 1 decibel.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Hear the difference?
Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
Cool. The attack is easy. It's just what it says, attack, how quick the compressors start to work. How many milliseconds? So the less the milliseconds, the quicker the compressor works.
Can I find my way in the dark?
Yes, Molly.
I'm sorry. Can you like go over again the definition of what what compression does?
Basically, I'm trying to think of an easy way. It adds or contains the dynamics of the signal.
Okay.
I feel like that's a pretty good way to kind of think about it, or the
Okay.
ceiling of the dynamics. So the harder you apply the compressor, it compresses the sound or the dynamics of the sound.
Okay.
So I try to compress it in a way where it doesn't lose its fluidity in it, but it hits it just enough to contain it. But I don't want to lose the natural dynamics. So sometimes you will hear the expression, you squashed my track, because the compressor is way too hard.
Okay.
And it's like, there's no breath, no fluidity in the signal.
Okay. Thank you.
Demo. Sorry.
Demo.
Demo.
Yes.
I said it wrong 3 times.
It's okay. I was actually gonna ask what's compression and what does it do to the sound, because I don't get it. Still.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of another way to explain it.
Why do we use it? What does it do to the sound?
It helps level out the dynamics of it, of the signal. So it's a dynamic tool, right? So let's say if the vocalist is inconsistent, right, and you want it to have a little bit more consistency in the signal, like let's say if I go, I don't wanna be the one, like compressor would help kind of control the dynamics of that vocal or the performance of that track.
Okay, so it's just
a
one
nice
line.
container.
To one line, right?
No, I mean you apply it to the whole dynamic of the track. So you set these parameters where it hits. So let's say if a word she says hit
Can I find my way?
Like the fine, it hits like 9 dB or negative 9 dB, right? So if I set my compressor to contain it in such a way, it'll level that out each time something hits that decimal point. It kind of taps it back down like a flea in a jar. Does that help? I'm trying to give some cool analogies.
Yes, I have a problem sometimes. Sometimes I record something and then the whole like instruments, when I add compressor, it lowers some voice and another voice that I don't want.
Right. So you have to set, that's where these parameters are important. Where the attack is, how it's releasing, the ratio. These are important so that it's not like I can completely squash this vocal and it sounds horrible. And I'll do extreme examples of, like, I'll try to deliberately sabotage the compressor on this so you can hear like how badly it can sound. My thing, I try not to squash things too much. I love like a natural flow. So I just add just enough to contain it. That's just my preference. Unless I'm intentionally trying to squash a particular sound and it feels further back and like really squashed. Yes, Molly. Or is the same? Oh,
sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
No, you're good.
One last question.
Yeah.
Is it okay to use multi compressors on the same
multi-band? I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
I mean, it might get super squashed if you're using,
Okay.
I mean, if you want to do that, if you want to control frequencies, there are multi-band compressors where you can compress different frequencies. But usually, rule of thumb, you usually put that on your master track. But some people will use multi-band compressors on instruments too. Not necessarily vocals. But again, that's a creative, if you want to explore that, and you might create a new sound. But multi-band compressors, you'll basically do this to each frequency, which is, yeah. Take some deep diving to master that, but yeah. Yep. NG?
Yes, my
Sorry.
question is kind of similar to Demo, but it's about EQ. I see a lot of people put multiple EQ on the same track, and I don't get why is that. Like
I don't
two
get why
to three EQs. Like why?
I don't
Is that
get that
necessary
either.
actually?
No.
Okay.
Most no. I think people do it to overcompensate sometimes if they're not really sure. In my experience, most seasoned engineers, you won't see 50 million EQs on the track.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Some programs like other than Logic,
yeah.
When you put the EQ first and then the compression, autotune first, EQ and then compression and then other effects, whatever. Sometimes these effects add extra frequencies. I've noticed in Logic that the placement doesn't really matter. You can compress and then you can EQ and it still sounds great. But some other platforms or other DAWs, you would need to add another EQ, not need, but it would actually help you also take out some frequencies added by these plugins. But of course it's I haven't seen this except once or twice, and it's not really needed.
Or
usually the plugin that needs the
I would argue, if you hear, if once you compress it, add something you don't want, go back to your EQ and carve it out.
That's
instead
usually
of
what
hitting the EQ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of A, you're loading your CPU, and B, it's a problem that you're overloading your CPU, and B, it's a problem that you can simply adjust by going back and using your ear and saying, okay, this compressor added whatever frequencies, let me just carve it a little bit out of my EQ, or vice versa. If you put the compressor first, then EQ, and it changes. I understand what you're saying, but I don't get the practical logic in doing it. You know what I mean? Especially if you're working in a DAW. Yasmin?
So what are the effects that we normally put on the track itself and the ones that we have to put on a bus track?
Yep. So usually the things that you put on track itself are pitch correctors, EQ, and a compressor of some type. And then most effects are sent through a bus or aux. Now, in some cases, if you want, again, this is where I get creative. If you're using a paddle board or something, you can put that directly on the track, or you can send it to a bus, depending on how you want it to hit your signal. But rule of thumb is I can't speak. The rule of thumb is usually pitch corrector, compressor, or EQ.
And
then most effects.
On the whole song, do we usually put a compressor to make the whole thing
you mean on the master
coherent
bus?
Yeah.
It depends. It's not necessary. I mean, I do it. A lot of people practice doing it now. Because I call it the the customer's plugin because it enhances the volume of the track. But most of the times when you're getting ready to go to mix, you'll bypass that anyway. The mixer mix, and then you send it to mastering, and then they will do the mastering, you know, the overall master. But some mixers will put a master plugin on it as well, or like a multi-band compressor. I use the God Particle. Logic has a new feature now where it uses AI to master your stereo, which is pretty cool. So this is Logic's little trinket now, and it analyzes your track and it creates a master for you.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. I'm struggling with these names, so I'm sorry. Layla.
Yeah, that's okay. I wanted to ask because I'm trying to learn how to record my own vocals and then have everything ready so that I can just send it for mixing and mastering. So would you say that these three effects on top of reverb or whatever else I'd want to add, is that what you call comping or vocal arrangements?
Well, no, comping is when you have several takes of the vocal and you piece together the best takes. So let's say if I had 3 passes mean 3 recording of this same vocal, and I like the middle section of my second pass and this section of my third pass, I would cut those sections and move it to my main pass. So that's what comping is.
Okay, so
right. This is more so if you're mixing or pre-mixing, right? If you're pre-mixing, I wouldn't go crazy with the plugins if you're planning to send it to a mixer or rough mixing. There's a process where we call rough mixing, where you basically mix it and give it the general idea of what you're trying to convey. And then you take it to a more experienced mixer and they'll listen and they'll enhance the idea of what you're trying to put together if you're not seasoned in mixing yet, if that makes sense.
yeah. I had another question as well. If I don't know anything about music theory or keys and majors and minors, how would I be able to, like what you showed us before, to the pitch correction and how to move each single note?
So
how would I know what key?
So there are plugins or that you can, or apps you can use. Let me find, I think there's one called Pitch in Key. Let me see where you can put it on the track. Let me see, maybe that's not it. I never use it, but let me see here. Oh, key detector. There's a key detector in Waves. And there are, let me see, it look like I found some free ones here too.
Hey there, hello my friend.
What is he talking about? 5 future tools. Oh, these are free by Waves. So it's called Key Detector.
Happy to spend some time with you on this video.
There's one, and you put the plugin on the track, and it'll tell you what key it's in. And you can Google like free key detectors or free plugins to detect the key. So I know you'll be surprised. A lot of engineers too don't like they know this, but they don't know music theory. So they'll use, like, if they're faced with an issue where they have to tune a vocal, they will apply one of these plugins and say, oh, okay, this is the key. So there are AI tools now to kind of help figure that out, that you use it. I'm sorry. Maybe not. Okay. Martina.
Martina?
Hello?
Maybe not.
Maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. All right, cool. I know we're running out of time pretty quickly here. I want to get to, do we have pretty much a general understanding of a compressor? Yep, all right, kind of. No, yes, maybe. Okay. Let me just go over a few more terms with the compressor that we didn't cover. Then I want to get to like the bus slash aux channels, which are interchangeable. So we talked about the threshold, we talked about the ratio, the attack, and then there's the release, is how soon after the signal dips below the threshold, the compressor stops.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving
You
you.
can also set it on auto.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Right? So the knee sets how the compressor reacts to signal once the threshold is passed. So hard knee settings mean it clips the signal straight away.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
And Hannah, can we send them like these definitions? Maybe like okay.
Totally.
Okay, cool. So this is kind of a general idea of what a compressor is and how it works.
I have
right, now.
sorry.
Yep, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Going back to the compression, the meter and the graph.
Yeah.
So that basically changes according to the tools that we levers that we change,
Yep.
and how high and low the vocals with the panel. Okay, cool.
I'm just kind of analyzing the signal as you change
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Now, that's one compressor. This is a compressor that I usually use. And it's, if it shows up. So it's a little bit different, but it's the same kind of information.
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
The attack, the release, the threshold, ratio. So again, once you kind of get familiar with the language, you can kind of move in between different compressors and find a compressor that you love. So now, the fun part, delays and verbs. Who's with me? So, bus, aux channels, interchangeable. interchangeable. And you could use it any way you like. I usually do delay, set up a delay bus and a verb bus in that order, just because there's no rule to it. You could do verb first, delay first. Doesn't really matter. And this channel here is my aux channel. So this is the bus I'm sending to my aux channel. And that's why I say they're interchangeable. So if I were to Command 2, right? And if I were to unarm my aux, my bus sends to my aux channel. That's probably an easier way to think about it. What is a bus? Think about it as if, let's use this, as if you're busing a signal. You're busing this auxiliary to this channel. Right? So you're going to set up, you're going to create an auxiliary channel. Oops. And on your auxiliary channel, you're going to add your effects. Does that make sense? Kinda? Okay, so this is a quick way to do it in Logic without having to open up the mix window. On your channel strip, I'm like pointing as if you see. On your channel strip over here, you have sends. When you click on those sends, you'll see an option to create a bus. So you'll have buses 1 through whatever. So pick a bus. That bus, once you create a send, that bus creates an auxiliary strip. Right? So I'm going to open up my mix window. So once I clicked on my send and created a bus, that keeps moving.
I'm sorry. Can you do that again? Because at least with me, I can't see what you're doing. Like I can't.
You can't see.
Yeah.
You don't see the. What are you not seeing?
No, we can't see everything. Like we can't see where you got the bus and everything.
It froze. That like the screen froze.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm going to switch to the mix window now. Okay. And I said this earlier, Command 2, because it's easy. There we go. It's easier to see on the mix window what I'm about to do, okay?
I think your screen might be frozen.
All right, let's restart it.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we here?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Oh, you can't see my mix window though. Hold on, I got you. That's the problem. That's the real problem here. All right, let's regather ourselves. All right. Sorry, I'm just cleaning up here. All right. Boom. All right, so now I'm going to do Command 2. Now you can see it. All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off for now. No send. So beneath your signal, so this is my lead vocal track. In these inserts, below the plugin inserts, you have sends. Those sends you send to a bus. I'm going to create a new bus because I've already created 1 and 2. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to send this track to bus 3. Bus 3 creates an auxiliary strip. On this auxiliary strip, I add my effects. So I'm going to add a delay here. I'm going to add a stereo delay. And I want to make sure my bus is in stereo because I'm going to send multiple tracks through this same bus to this auxiliary channel. So I'm going to bus signals through my send to this auxiliary strip. So the destination is the information is from my auxiliary to my signal. My send is the bus that transport this information. It doesn't make more sense now? Okay, cool. Awesome. So now my auxiliary channel is at 0. I can change the amount of information that's coming through on this channel, on my vocal channel strip, by turning up the volume of my send. So, for example,
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause
right? So now I'm going to create send to, that's bus 4. So I'm going to name this auxiliary channel that I created through my bus delay. So now on my background vocals, if I were to go to my send and get on bus number 3, bus number 3 is going to teleport me to my delay destination. So whatever channel I select bus 3, everybody who's getting on bus 3 is going to go through to that same auxiliary channel strip, right? So now I'm going to create another bus number 4. Bus number 4, I'm going to add verb. I like Space Designer. So I'll go to my auxiliary channel here and name that verb. So now when I go to my bus, go to the bus station, says I want to board bus number 4. I have 2 sends from auxiliary 3 and auxiliary 4. So now I have verb.
can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
So that's my verb. 4 is my verb. Now I can add delay. Can slowly dial in the volume of my delay through this send.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your...
Now let's say I want to get fancy here. I want to create another effects bus. So now I'm going to create the auxiliary. Let's say, let's find some type of wacky filter. So I'll name this filter. Right? Now I can
I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive.
Yeah.
Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever. Can I live this way?
Yep, got a few questions here. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate. Oh, you know what? I'll put you all up here. There we go. This is better for me. Okay, Should have thought this early. Okay, who had a question? Gina?
I have a question. How do I get my track to sound good with reverb without actually me sounding like I'm singing in the bathroom or something? Because I can't really balance that out.
So the first thing is, I think sending a bus is the perfect way. So my verb is here. So if it's too loud,
Can I find my way in the dark?
or if I turn
Tell me how to keep us
the volume down.
alive. Help me find.
So you set any, I'm just gonna randomly pick a verb here. A plate. Oops. Let's go stairway. Right. You can turn the wet all the way up, but I control the send on this track with this knob. So if I go here,
Can I find my way in the dark?
it's not very sexy. If I turn it down,
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I
then you want to add a little delay on that.
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me how to keep us alive. Help me find the way to your heart.
Right. So that's how you kind of control the send of the signal. Right. So your bus creates the channel, which transport the information from bus 4, we'll call delay, the delay stop, whatever, however you set your buses up. And you name those auxiliary channels, and the send is how much of the information is sending.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I missed someone's hand here. Dimo?
Yes. I'm not following on the buses part, so why did we create separate channels?
Yep. So you create separate channels for separate effects. So I created a bus 1 a bus, and I could use bus 1, create bus 1, and then whatever effect you want to be on that bus, you create an auxiliary strip. So I know delay is on this, a particular delay is on this bus, or on this auxiliary strip, right? So basically, that's why I said bus and auxiliary are kind of interchangeable, but the best way to think about it is you're busing information from the auxiliary strip back to your signal.
So what's the difference between that and just adding the audio effect on the
Two reasons. You can't control it as effectively. The send controls how much information is on that track. The second thing is, if I want multiple tracks to go through that same delay, I can just send them. You get what I'm saying? And it's the same delay, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Tasnim. Am I still killing that? Please correct me.
No. It's her name and
Right.
you're doing great.
So many beautiful names. I don't want to mess
It's
them
okay.
up.
You're doing great. So Dimo asked one of my questions because I was trying to create a metaphor for what was happening. And also I just wanted to ask, before you do any of these steps, is it wise to try to control the volume of everything, of all of your tracks first, and then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Again, like depending on the environment, you can kind of do like a general balance, but everything is always subject to change until you find the perfect balance of what you want. So sometimes, like right now, I'm adding, this sounds great. I like the way that verb delay sounds, but when I start adding other things in,
Can I find my way in the dark? Tell me
I might change how much delay.
Help me find the way to your heart. 'Cause I've been loving you forever, can I live this way?
And so this vocal here, I might say, hey, I want more verb on this vocal that's coming in, and turn it down.
Been loving you forever, can I live this way?
I don't know, you know, it depends. So you start making those fun and creative decisions. Again, is building the language so that you can have the vocabulary to explore and expand your creative thought. So you can dream up any sound, but you have to have the vocabulary to express or how to get to it a little bit faster. So I know we just scratched the surface. I know there's so many more questions. This stuff gets really deep. I encourage you to just take time with it, with the information that we've had time to kind of explore, really take it, expand it, research it more, get dirty, throw colors against the wall, and see what comes out on the other end. It's been a pleasure getting to speak with you all. I hope you have a better understanding, a concept of this. Thank you, hearts. I feel the love. I feel the love. So yeah, again, thank you so much for allowing me to share with you. I wish we had 2 more hours, but we don't. So yeah, so take this information and really expand on your creativity.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This has been the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank
you're
you
welcome
so
to follow
much. I
me.
will dream of this song, inshallah.
You're
I
welcome.
think we'll be the #1 fans of that song. It's like-
There we go.
Yeah.
You can follow me on
I think I'm gonna dream of this song.
oh god.
100%.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram. That's my handle in the chat.
No.
Been there, done that.
Yes, I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to hearing all the great music that you will create.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Did you do the thumb?